Hey guys, Akariss here. Welcome to another Q&A series video. This will be the third in the series. If you haven't seen the previous ones, go ahead and check those out. I'll probably put a link to the series in the description below. With that being said, thank everybody who's been participating in this series for me to get know you guys and you to get me, you to know me better. So you guys have, asked some awesome questions, and I'm going to continue answering them in this series. Now, the first three in these series were kind of like weekly, bi-weekly, but they will probably happen more infrequently going forward after this video, maybe on a every month kind of basis. I'll pick like 3 of the highest voted questions as determined by the previous videos, and I'll pick 3 at random so that you can always have a feeling that you may get picked based on your questions. So, with that being said, thank you again. Let's jump into it. Let's learn a little bit about Akariss. So, first question, and the highest voted one by FooSword over here asks, what do you think about other Fe YouTubers like PM1, etc., like the content they're making? Okay, so I did do collaborations like a couple years ago, about 2 years ago, with other FeTubers, and I would actually like to do it again at some point, but it's not really up to me particularly. I mean, it's mostly me in this aspect, but generally speaking, I am European, so it's harder to make timetables scheduled when most of the other content creators are in the American time zone. That's one primary reason. Second one is I'm actually a very busy person, despite what you may think or not. I mean, right now I'm on summer break, so I'm producing a lot of YouTube videos, but generally speaking, if I'm not streaming or making videos, I'm doing something else. I'm always busy, and honestly, I don't even have much time to even play something like 3 Houses in my free time. I want to play that game all the time, but I do a couple hours of streaming every day. I make some videos, takes me a couple hours every day as well. And the other free time, I pretty much spend time with either my pets, I have some pet rats, or with like my significant other, and yeah, I mean family and whatnot. Or traveling. Like I always kind of do something, and I'm not necessarily just sitting here and doing stuff. So I don't have the time to make collaborations, and that's unfortunate, but hopefully in the future we do find some time to put something together with other people. As for the content themselves, I actually don't watch any other Fe content, and that's because I don't really like the type of content they produce. Doesn't really meet my needs. Like for example, PM1 covers a lot of the I'd say beginner level stuff. He produces guides to help people get those rewards if they don't have the knowledge or the skill to achieve the content that might be harder. So big props to him, but I don't need it. I like solving a puzzle on my own, and a lot of the other content might be for Fed, just mostly summoning related, and as you may know, I'm not a huge fan of the gachas, so there's really no other content that appeals to me. I used to really follow like Dire Thunder's content a lot, but he doesn't make videos anymore except his streams, so that's unfortunate. But high level knowledgeable stuff is definitely what appeals to me. It's not that much of it anymore, so it's not much for me to watch when it comes to Fe. Moving on, MeowU2 asks, how do I create offense teams for AR? Should I make them drastically different for countering different maps, or should you have the same-ish reliable team and modify it slightly? Okay, so this question is kind of dependent on what you got in your own barracks, but I'll try to summarize my thought process to it. So I'll give my Astra team as an example to this. I pretty much committed to Kronia as both a tank and hybrid unit, and this means I just have variants of Kronia in a team comp for Astra. 3 variants of Kronia. One variant is the tank, tank Kronia, which, by the way, if you don't know how AR team comps are made, assume 2 mythics, 2 airs or 2 nagas right now, plus a bonus unit, so assume the Askariss trio, and then 1 carry unit, so Kronia, and 1 support unit, so a Dancer or male Corrin, for instance, or a Versa. So what I'm saying is I had like 3 Kronia variants in Astra recently, so that could be like Kronia plus M Corrin, Kronia plus Loki, and Kronia plus Dancer. And this means I can choose to play that playstyle however I want. If I want to end turn at max range, I'll use M Corrin. If I want to go in deep and maybe weaken some enemies, then I'd use a Dancer. Or if I just want to make sure one unit can't reach me in particular, but the rest of the team isn't as strong, I'd use like Loki. So that's like some variants on team comps, and I do think that's pretty solid, because it makes sure that summoner support is on the right unit, which would be Chronia in this case, and that unit can carry on a lot of variants. A lot of people run like multiple tanks, multiple team comps, but because you can't run summoner support on multiple units, it tends to be its own problem. So you got to make sure you have a good carry unit, tank. Maybe the Vantage unit doesn't need summoner support, because all that really matters there is the attack and not really the rest of the stats, in most cases. Now, that's just 3 team comps. So what you want to do is create different strategies for the different team comps. So what I'm saying is, what you should do is maybe like a Gale Force team, or maybe like a hit and run team. So for example, I have Luis as another team comp, which is a Dancer, Luis and Dancer. I can hit and run away, hit and run something. You don't necessarily have to kill it, and that's pretty good because some comps can't really punish that properly. Like a Fireball might not be able to punish that properly. And on top of that, I also run a Gale Force comp. So if you guys want to see these sort of things, you want to see the team comps, you want to see the strategies, I highly recommend checking out the Ether Raids videos, okay? Like, that's why I produce those videos. Gives you a, you know, hands-on experience to see exactly what I'm putting together and why it works. And I try to show off all my different team comps. We're not just having one tank every single AR video. You know, I use different strategies, and if I feel that strategy did the job well, I'm going to show it off to you guys in a video. So be sure to check out those Ether Raids videos that are on the channel. They will give you some perspective. Okay, moving on. Tom Sama asks, can 4-star plus 10 units work? Generally, no. And the reason I don't recommend 4-star plus 10 units is for a couple of reasons. One, if that particular unit gets a weapon refine in the future, you may regret not committing to a 5-star plus 10, where you're losing out on a lot of stats, the unit scores less, and its full potential isn't reached. On top of that, you're kind of wasting fodder should you choose to commit to the higher merge, the higher potential unit. Yes, it's a higher investment, but you got to play the long game, and the long game is better because you just have more stats to work with. So 4-star plus 10, in my opinion, was kind of what I did in the past when combat manuals weren't a thing. When there weren't combat manuals, you kind of had to save barrack space, not spend orbs on barrack space, and just condense your barracks by just trying to, you know, merge things together. Nowadays, I don't think that's needed. Feathers are plenty. You should make sure you know what projects you're making, and don't throw away fodder. Even stuff like Bowie, 4-star plus 10, even though you're not really wasting much feathers, or Est, you know, these units don't have much fodder. Why you don't want to do that is because in the future, if these units become more meta prevalent, you may regret making a 4-star plus 10 and a 5-star plus 10. I actually had a 4-star plus 10 Est first, and then now I'm committed to a 5-star plus 10. So that's a little bit of a waste there. Like, I guess wasted some shove, some feathers were a little bit lost in that process. So like, it's not really recommended. I think the only situation a 4-star plus 10 now has some merit is pretty much where you know you're only going to use the unit in like Arena Assault, I guess, but even then you don't need a 4-star plus 10, or you just need a temporary bonus unit in a season. So for example, Bowie is coming up to be a bonus unit. I don't want to spend 100,000 feathers. I just want to spend 20k on him just so I can have a 4-star plus 10, and I'm, you know, just he'll do the job as 4-star plus 10. I know I'm never going to use him again except in Arena Assault, and this kind of saves me feathers just by this specific scenario. But if there is any doubt in your mind you might use this unit in the future, don't commit to a 4-star plus 10. For example, Sylvia, bonus unit, maybe a month ago or so, I went for the 5-star merges instead of the 4-star merges because I know in the future I might use Sylvia as like an infantry pulse unit on an AR defense team. And if there's, you know, any doubt of that, go for the 5-star merges. Okay, next up, Nick, randomly picked, asks, can you make a guide showing specifically how to use a Gale Force team? I keep hearing about them but can't figure out how to make a team out of it. Okay, so Gale Force strats are actually probably the most difficult to do because you need calculations in them. You need to set up properly within a couple of turns, and it could fall apart if you make the wrong calcs and you just run into some team comps. Sometimes you have to gamble a trap. They're difficult to set up. But if you have some practice, they're really potent because people don't really design air defense teams with Gale Force in mind. They just kind of just put traps in front of their units and hope for the best. But Gale Force teams are very potent because they sweep teams, and you know, any sort of nukers, if you just get rid of the nukers in one turn, there's nothing left. So my recommendation for this, I don't have any Gale Force guides right now, and I don't think it's very practical to make one, because a Gale Force team is completely dependent on an air defense team, where the traps are, what map they use, and which units you choose to use for a Gale Force team. So it's very hard to just say, you know, here's how you play Gale Force, because it's totally dependent on the team comp. Now, I may make something of this sort for a guide in the future, but I think I'm going to tie it into how the AI series that I'm currently working on right now. So I'll try to show you like a Gale Force play and how the AI reacts to the aftermath of a Gale Force play. That's what I have in mind right now, but it may not happen soon. I have something else in mind for the AI series before then. But as I said previously, just a couple minutes ago, watch the Gale Force videos that I'm about to release. I'm going to release a few now, and maybe you can get an idea of what works and what doesn't. Now, for units when it comes to Gale Force, I highly recommend consistent Gale Force units that aren't totally dependent on the air defense team. For example, Navarre, super strong, best Gale Force unit in the game, I would say, just because of the way his weapon works, enabling Gale Force to be almost pre-charged. Curtains as a weapon, super strong as well, kind of same fundamental aspect of what Navarre does. And Bold Fighter armors with Gale Force, very strong as well, and that's just because they don't care about speed checks and such. They don't care about the heavy blade checks and whatnot. So those are 3 really strong Gale Force ideas for now, but you're gonna have to watch some of the gameplay I show you, and maybe some of the guides I may produce in the distant future. No promises in the near future for that, but it is something you should create last. Like, that is your wild card AR offense team. Don't worry about it until your other teams aren't perfected. Okay, so Hurricane Shadow asks, did I used to play MapleStory? And if so, how much? What do I think of the game now? Okay, so this is probably very relevant to a lot of people if you watch any of my other videos, especially the unit analysis series. I do use MapleStory music in the background, and I used to play MapleStory decades ago. And I'm talking like 2 decades ago, guys. Very long time ago, almost 2 decades ago. And I honestly didn't play very much as I got older. I think I only played in my like preteen years, and it was just a really good game. I had a lot of fun playing it. Played it with a lot of my good friends. They slept over and stuff, and a lot of the music is really well made. I just really enjoy it, so I still listen to it. It's good as like study music and that kind of stuff. I only played like pre-Pirates, so that was like 0.67 patch or something, really long time ago. I played a little bit before Big Bang patch as well, and I haven't really played much after that. I think what I played was like a Crusader. I played in like the super old days where grinding was like, you had to grind like zombies from like level 60 to 70, and it took like 6 hours of grinding for a single level, and the maps were all crowded. Those are my days of playing the game, and it's kind of a fond memory. I'd say like a lot, and this is why I kind of like Fire Emblem Heroes a little bit, I can tie it into there, is because I like the long-term game plan. I like the long-term investment, and I don't like the instant gratification of stuff. I like putting in hours and hours of time into things and seeing the fruits of your loins. Like, you just see the result of everything as it shapes up to be, rather than getting your instant gratification. That's also why I don't like gacha, because gacha's like random, and you didn't really put much effort into it. You might have saved orbs, but at the end of the day it was random, right? So like, you could have just got lucky, or you could have spent 1,000 orbs and didn't even get the thing you wanted. So that's why I don't really like gacha. But when it comes to like grails, I love grails because I put in the effort in Ether Raids, I get my grails, and then I get my units, which add in some merges, and that feels good. So that sort of progression, I really like it. I can look for some sort of progression. I love that about Fire Emblem Heroes. I love that I can think months ahead about my team comps, write them down, and use that aspect. If the game had no gacha, it would be the perfect game from my point of view, because even the gameplay has no random elements to it. So yeah, that's my take on MapleStory. Finally, a final question by Gaja Sasu asks, what is my favorite class? Now, I'm assuming this is a Fire Emblem related question, like vocation and such. My favorite class in a lot of games, this is not just specific to Fire Emblem Heroes, is actually the Archer class or the Sniper class. Even in like a real life aspect, I'm not a confrontational type of dude. I like bows. I like analyzing like like a threat or something, and just making sure that I keep my distance. And I don't like close counters. Like it's not really my type of thing. So I kind of attribute this to my gameplay. You know, I've played like a hunter class in World of Warcraft. I've played a lot of other smaller name MMOs. I play like an archer class, and when it comes to Fire Emblem, I've played archers as like a lot of my army. Like I've used really bad archers. I'm talking like Rebecca, Will, Dorothy, Astrids, and you know, etc. Like you just roll. If you just think of an archer from the Fire Emblem series, they've been on my team. I tell you. I think the only archer I've never used because I just didn't like him was Virion. That might be the only archer in the whole Fire Emblem series I didn't like. So of course Niles, you know, one of my favorite characters, not being an archer really helps him there. So that's pretty much it. And if a class can be reclassed, or in the case of 3 houses, you have the option of teaching your students archery, or your main character uses archery. Trust me, half my team is pretty much archers. It's just something I really like. I just like the aspect. I used to practice archery, and I played archery tag, where it's basically you just go into like kind of like a gym, and you have like arrows. You have a bow and arrow, and it has like a sponge at the end instead of a tip to hurt someone. And yeah, you just shoot people with arrows on like a line, kind of like, it's kind of like dodgeball, but with a bow and arrow. And you hit people, they're out. But you know, I used to be really good at both dodging and hitting people in that sport. It was a lot of fun. So I don't know. Just favorite class, archer. What's your favorite class, guys? Feel free to tell me in the comments, along with any other questions and stuff. As always, I read whatever questions you might have for me in the next video series as it comes up. Thank you so much for participating in this. Give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Much love. Peace.